What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah! Hey! Welcome back to the Metalhead's Journey. Hey, so we're back on the top 20 hair metal list this week. We have reached number 19. This is the band Kix, and this is their landmark album, Blow My Fuse.
Landmark.
Like it. Yeah, landmark album. It is what it is, man. Hey, I hope you guys have been following along with us. We are doing 4 different lists right now at the same time. Check out what we did last week. We did a review of Queen's Night at the Opera, the number 19 rock record. Next week, we are going to get back to the prog metal list, where we're going to do an
Symphony
album
X.
from Symphony X, Twilight and the Olympus, something like that.
Yes. Twilight in
At the
Olympus.
Twilight in Olympus.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to do that album next week. So hope you're looking forward to that one. But like I said, we're talking about hair metal this week. This is number 19 record. So we'll get into a little bit of history of the band, history of the record, and then we'll break down the record for you here. So Kix, formed in 1976, is a glam metal band from Maryland. The band cycled through names such as Shoes and let me spell it for you. Shooze. Shoes, and the Generators before landing on Kix with an X. The classic lineup features Steve Whiteman on vocals, Donnie Purnell on bass, Ronnie 10 out of 10 Youngkins, and Brian Damage Forsyth on guitar, and Jimmy Chocolate Chalfant on drums. The band released 7 studio albums, including their most recent album, Rock Your Face, released in 2014. This is hard to find information on, but I think they've sold just over 2 million records. Of the 2 million records, Blow My Fuse, which was released in 1988 and is the band's 4th studio album, sold over 1 million records. So this is it. This is their record, yeah.
This is their record.
Yeah, the album features Kix's only hit, Don't Close Your Eyes. The song peaked at number 11 on the Billboard charts. This album peaked at number 46 on the charts. The album produced 3 singles: Get It While It's Hot, Blow My Fuse, and Don't Close Your Eyes. Jason.
Yes.
You're the only person that was like of a decent age when hair metal was out here, man. So why don't you get started here? Tell us what you thought about the record this week.
Okay, so if you caught our episode last week, I kind of gave a forewarning about how in this time in the 80s, I was pretty much over the hair metal era, and I was the poster child for waiting for like Metallica's Black Album. Like I was into industrial and some other stuff, waiting for something new to come out. So I really didn't listen to this stuff back then, and the reason is, and I had a discussion with about this with the guy at work the other day. We were talking about this album specifically, and I think the reason why I stopped listening to this era was because, and it's going to be a little hypocritical, I know, but it's because these bands had a collection of songs, but the only songs that ever made play were their power ballads. And you just get sick and tired of fucking hearing power ballads over and over every time on the radio or on the MTV or VH1 or whatever the hell you were watching at the time.
So you're not like every rose has its thorn kind of a guy, huh?
Yeah, so you just don't, you're like, dude, I'm not going to buy that fucking album. And so you don't listen to the other songs. And so, like I said, like last week, I was saying, like, I'm looking forward to seeing what else is on this album because I just associate all of these bands with their power ballad hits, you know. And so I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I will say, spoiler alert, their power ballad on here is unfucking touchable. But they had some other really good songs on this album. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'm glad that we got to listen to this album.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, man. I'd never heard the album before this week, so it was a good change to get into this after the David Lee Roth record, right? And it's not to shit on the DLR record. It's just I still don't think DLR was hair metal. It was just kind of its own thing. This is the first time, granted it's only the second album, but this is the first time it's felt like true hair metal. Like that's what this album sounds like. This album is definitely a vibe. It just drips with that sweaty, cigarette smelling party vibe. Like now you see Fat Vince Neil in a bar somewhere, and you're like, ugh. Like, yeah, it kind of screams that, right? So there's definitely some highlight moments on it. I would tell you, for me, I liked the album more the first time than I did the fifth time I listened to it. I feel like as I kind of got deeper and deeper into the record, there were clear skippers. And whatever the better songs were, I struggle to say highlights, but whatever the better songs on the album were, they just clearly separated themselves. So for me, the album was and still is fun. It's still a fun album, but it lost some of its luster for me the more I listened to it. So, overall, it left me a little flat.
Yeah, I guess I worry that's going to be. And it's not a worry. It's just like, I guess, a question that, rhetorically, we'll need to answer as we go through this list. But, like, is that going to be the case for all these hair metal albums, right? Like, is the first time through going to be, like, the most exciting? Because it's like...
nostalgia part?
Yeah, like, because it's like you kind of get the shtick the first time. And then now you're listening to it to, like, okay, now I need to, like, get something from the record.
Well, I think I was saying this to you earlier, Dave, and I guess I was thinking about it is like we did the Queen record, right? And I'm not trying to compare because there's two different genres, two different things, right? But I'm just looking at two lists, right? If you look at the 19th best rock record, and it's Queen's A Night at the Opera, and then you look at the 19th best hair metal record, and it's this record, it just shows you like, yeah, I mean, and again, like rock is. It's a huge category with decades and decades and decades of content and bands and music, and so it's reasonable to say that. I mean, while the Queen record is probably going to be criminally low by the time we finish that, but it's reasonable to say that's the 19th best rock record of all time because there's probably been a million rock records. I don't know, that's probably a lot, but hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah.
Whereas hair metal encompasses
a very specific
10-year period. Yeah. And so it's just funny to see the quality difference between 19 on the rock record or on the rock list, and it's an all-timer, and 19 on this one. And it's like, I hope this list gets better.
Yeah.
I know the highs are high. I know they are because we're going to get some fucking classic Motley Crue, some Def Leppard, right? Like there's going to be some classics that we hit on this that are going to raise the level of this list. But right now it's low.
Yeah, I mean, like another example in the same thing is we had Rush Moving Pictures at number 20, and this one had DLR with Eat song. I forget something. Smile. Eat. I'm blanking.
Eat 'em and smile.
Eat 'em and smile. There we go. And it's like, I mean, Queen and Rush are classic bands. So anyway, as far as this album, Josh, I would say I had the opposite experience with this record. It got better with subsequent listens. I think as more time, my brain got to separate myself from Queen, and I got to just listen to this, dude. When I listened to this for the last time today, dude, it got to the end like really quick. It got to Dirty Boys. And I was like, man, that was fast. That was a fast listen. Like I actually got to the point where I was really enjoying listening to the record. Now, to your point, I did struggle a little bit for highlights, and that is because I think the record does suffer from the songs being very samey, with a few exceptions. But I think it's an enjoyable listen. So that's my overall thoughts.
Yeah, it is a breeze. I mean, it's 40 minutes, 10 songs. So, I mean, it certainly doesn't overstay its welcome. So,
definitely.
I don't know what you got.
I mean, I had kind of a mix of reactions, I think, from everybody. At first, I was a little bit cold on it. I was like, yeah, this is okay. But then the more I listened to it, I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is good. And then when I listened to the whole thing the final time through, when I was like doing all my notes and stuff, I was like, okay, I think I'm over it. So, kind of a roller coaster there. But
Yeah.
overall, I do think it's a pretty good album. Um, I'm I was one of the things I was thinking about was I'm curious what like the original version of the album sounded like, because we've got, the version we've got now is kind of a remix, and this remix is mixed very well. Like you can hear the guitar sound great, the bass has a good presence in the mix. Like musically, sonically, I guess I really enjoyed what I heard. And it was definitely, like I said, it was definitely a grower for me. I mean, it's pure hair metal, like the times when you're actually listening to it and into it, like when some of these like more like dancey tunes come on, you just want to move your body, man, and it does that very effectively. But otherwise, hair metal isn't necessarily my thing. And like I said, by the time I got to the end of the last listen, I was like kind of ready to put it behind me, more or less. But overall, solid album.
Jonah, who's your MVP for the record?
Sorry, I don't have the names of the band members pulled up or in my notes, but for me, the vocals were a pretty big standout.
So
in
Steve
particular,
Whiteman.
yeah. In particular, hang on, let me see, which one was it? I forget what song it was, but like just he has like the perfect hair metal voice, in my opinion. Like he can belt those high notes. He can get a little gruff with the lower register. But for me, it was definitely him. His vocals were just like the pure essence of hair metal for me.
Nice.
I'm gonna jump in because I'm gonna basically say it's the same. It's the lead singer Steve Whiteman, but I'm gonna say this. I think it's because his voice range is a little bit lower than I would say a lot of the other hair metal bands of that time.
And I was thinking Vince Neil, and Vince Neil was always so up here, so that Steve actually had some range.
Yeah, there's some songs on here like I have on here for Boomerang, very Skinnerd sound. And it's like I said, he's got a little bit more, I don't want to say masculine, but gravelly, but higher pitched tone. Like it's very unique, and it fits what they're doing perfectly. I thought his vocal range and the way that they're tuned fit like a glove.
Yeah, I went with the bass player on this one, Donnie Purnell, and this isn't for. Yeah, I know. Hold on, I'm going to reel it back in quickly. This isn't for any bass playing prowess. I chose Donnie Purnell purely for the songwriting credits on this album because he wrote most of the songs on here that I thought were pretty good.
He has a writing credit on every song.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, he does. But like I said, most of the other artists on this are musicians don't. It's like other songwriters.
Yes.
So
correct.
So I just went with him from a songwriting standpoint. There was not a single standout musician or member of this band for me on this record. Like, it's not that anybody was bad by any means, but there just wasn't like look, we made fun of, like, we created like the Steve Vai award because Steve Vai was the clear and only good thing of that DLR record. But dude, I wish we had something like that on this record. Just something that was just 10% more interesting.
Sure.
I'm right there with you, Josh. I also did not have an MVP. I think I'm going to end up, just based on the way we're talking, I feel like I'm going to score this record higher than you, but I feel like all these guys are pretty much interchangeable. Now, knowing that the bass player wrote basically is the heart and soul of his band when it comes to like writing the music. He probably isn't interchangeable. But from a pure playing standpoint, I think this is textbook glam metal in terms of its sound, and I don't really think anyone necessarily brings anything overly unique to the table. Like I don't think either of the guitar players. Ronnie is definitely not a 10 out of 10. He's more like a 6 out of 10.
Dude, those names are so good, dude. Ronnie 10 out of 10 Youngkins and Brian Damage Forsyth.
Now I have a feeling Brian Damage is a play on like brain damage. And that might be what he had when he created that nickname.
God.
But yeah, I don't think there's anybody that overly stands out. I mean, the vocalist is fine.
Yeah, I think so. You know, we like I said, we joked about having the Steve Vai Award, which goes clearly to like the only positive thing on a record. I think we can also have like the Kicks Award or the Kicks MVP, which is just like it's fine. Everybody's fine.
Like the artist who did the cover art. This is good. Yeah. This is some good cover art.
Yeah. Dave, why don't you hit us with your top tracks?
So I just want to say that the I don't individually rate these songs like a couple of these other guys do, but for this I almost kind of had to just to like really like I'll just go. So my number 3 is Dirty Boys, the closing track. I actually really like that song. I love that.
It's got a good riff.
I think that song is really solid. I forgot, I fucked this up, but my honorable mention was going to be No Ring Around Rosie. I like that song as well. I think that's really good. My number 2 though is Get It While It's Hot. I think that song is very, very good. And my number 1, it's not even close. It's Don't Close Your Eyes. I think it's an absolute banger of a song. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. No lowlights. Really, the other songs kind of bleed in. I mean, Cold Blood was the single we reacted to. It's fine, but yeah, no lowlights.
Yeah, I didn't have an honorable mention. It was hard enough to come up with 3. So for me, number 3 is Piece of the Pie. Just a fun little catchy track. Number 2 for me, Don't Close Your Eyes. Definitely, you know, a banger, and early on was my favorite track on here, but it kind of got dethroned by this first song, which is Get It While It's Hot. I don't know the answer to the question as to why this is the best song on the record, but I'll tell you the story that led me there. Was so the Super Bowl was this past Sunday, and you know, my wife and I decided to host a little Super Bowl party at the house, and I may or may not have had way too much to drink. And so somewhere in the middle of the second quarter, I found myself hugging my toilet, throwing up. And dude, I swear to God, the only thing that's going through my brain the whole time, besides the vomit, is just the chorus to Get It While It's Hot, nonstop. And I'm sitting here, I'm laying against the wall, and I'm like,
Get it while it's hot. And it's just going.
It's just going nonstop, and I'm like, why is it this song? And I was like, you know what? That must be my favorite song on the record, so I went for it. So
it's a very catchy chorus.
It is.
You were partying like it was the 80s.
Yeah, I was. minus the blow.
I was gonna say minus the blow
for sure. I'll go next. So my number 3 was my number 3 was Red Light Green Light. TNT.
It's a good opener.
I think it's a solid opener. You know, you definitely get a taste for what the rest of the album's going to be like. You know, the main riff's a little simple, but it's good. My number 2 was Get It While It's Hot. It's just like pure like hair metal vibes. And actually, I didn't mention this before, but this song, along with a couple other ones, kind of gave me a little bit like AC/DC vibes as well.
Dude, so Get It While It's Hot, 1,000,000% lifts the riff from You Should Be All Night Long.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000,000%.
I have it right in my notes.
Yeah, and then there's another moment on here too. I can't remember what it is, but I mean, it's straight up. So it's funny. I left out some of the stuff that I was researching, and one of the things was they covered a lot of AC/DC tracks.
I mean, there you go. That explains it.
You can hear it all day long.
Yeah. The tone of the guitars and everything. And then actually my number 1 was the title track, Blow My Fuse.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I thought it was solid. I really liked the chorus and the like the main, verse riff and everything. It slows down a little bit during like the bridge, but the solo was decent, and like I said, the main riff and the chorus really made it for me. So that was my number one.
All right, so my honorable mention is going to be "Blow My Fuse." Heavy riff, very strong, decent title track. To be honest, but my top three. Number three, "Should Drop Me the Bomb." The more I heard that song, if I continued to hear that song, it might creep up to be two or one. I'm not too sure exactly, but definitely a banger. Number two, "Cold Blood," another great song, solid chorus. But number one, without a shadow of a doubt, I wrote it down. Fucking peak '80s power ballad. Don't close your eyes.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like this is the first time in a long time we haven't all had at least one song together on the top three.
Yeah, and just I have it written in my notes for "Get It While It's Hot." Not a bad song, but all I hear is AC/DC. She shook me.
Yeah.
And that song, uh, as the more I heard it, the worse the score got because all I could hear was AC/DC song.
Yeah.
I kept
When it hits
singing
that riff, dude. I mean, it's a fucking
Yeah.
straight rip off.
I kept singing the verse for "She Shook Me."
Yeah. I know we don't normally do. I know we have like low lights. We don't normally do issues, but I did just want to call out one little issue I had with the record. And Jason, you referenced earlier that there was a Leonard Skinner vibe to some of this. Yeah, dude. There was like I'm usually a pretty big fan of introducing like outside instruments, right? Like I feel like the metal saxophone is having a thing right now with certain bands, right? And you had Dream Theater do a nice saxophone on Images and Words, and then you have like Nonpoint does a sweet ass trumpet solo on one of their records. And I'm usually a pretty big fan of harmonica. Ozzy does some harmonica on the OG Black Sabbath record. He does some on Degradation Trip on his new record. But man, the use of harmonica on this record is garbage. Like it does. I feel like it's out of place. I don't know. I don't understand what they're trying to go for by introducing the harmonica here, but it just fucks with the vibe, man. For me, I don't know.
There's a couple of times where it's used. I think it's just the fact that the lead singer plays harmonica. He's like, dude, I want to put the harmonica.
Let me get in there, bro. Let me cook.
Yeah. And it's like, bro, nobody's gonna eat those leftovers. So let's not. We don't want you to cook, bro. We're full.
Yeah. Did anybody else have any issues they want to talk about or anything?
No.
Okay. All right. So, hey, we're kind of down to the final category here. This is where we like to give our score for the record. And just to give some clarification for us, our rating system is a little different than the average rating system. Normally, you would give something a 7 if it was kind of an average record. For us, average score is a 5. So anything 4.9 and below, that's various levels of we would not recommend that record. Anything 5 and above is various levels of we would recommend. And anything between a 9 and a 10, as in like Queen's Night at the Opera, is an all-time classic, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go first because I feel like I'm going to have the most negative score. So I started out tonight, and I had a score in mind, and I put it down on paper, and I still have it on paper, but I'm going to change it. So I gave David Lee Roth's record a 5.2, and when I started this night, I put down this record as a 5.3. Because at the time, I felt like it was only slightly better than DLR's record. And the more I sit and think about it, and the more I compare the two records, I just keep thinking about how much more interesting David Lee Roth's record was than this record. I feel like this record is a better hair metal record, but I feel like that DLR record was it was a much better listen for me. I'm going to put this at an even 5.
Just right at the bare minimum of recommend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go
Fair
next.
enough.
I'll go next. For comparison, I gave David Lee Roth's record a 4.8, which is not good for me because I'm usually pretty. I'm usually pretty generous with my scores compared to everyone else for the most part. I thought this was a very thoroughly enjoyable record. It's I think it's a fun, easy listen. It's not something I would ever put in heavy rotation. But if I ever had to
listen to this record again, ever.
No. I agree with you. I'm never going to actively go out and listen to this record. But if I had to listen to the record, I wouldn't hate my life. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 6.6.
Wow.
I'll jump in because I feel like I got the most out of this record. I went into listening to this record with little to no expectations based on my just outright hate for hair metal bands.
I feel like Jason's about to have the highest score.
Oh, for sure.
I think this is going to be the first. And I enjoyed myself. The power ballad was like a blast from the past. But there was some other songs on here that I thought were really, really well done. This album does suffer from, similar to what Jonas said, kind of a roller coaster up and down. I think most of the meat of this is right in the middle. There are some skippers on here, unfortunately. But even the skippers, if you just had it playing in the background, you probably wouldn't even notice it and just reach over to skip it. You just let it finish. It's only going to be 3 or 4 minutes long anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
And 3 of these tracks are going to make my playlist. I gave this album a 7.2.
Wow.
That's got to be like a top 5 Human Fossil score.
All right, Jonah, hit it.
So yeah, I mean, I think Josh called it out pretty accurately earlier. How this album, this band didn't really have anyone who earned the Steve Vai Award. Everybody was absolutely fine, and I think like given the right mood and like maybe you're having like I don't know an 80s party or something, and this album is tracks from this album are just kind of on some kind of rotation playing in the background noise for like a party. It's solid. It does its job. It keeps the energy high. But other than that, it was pretty all right. That's about the best thing I can say about it. So my score ended up being just an even 6.
So you also think it's worse than the David Lee Roth record?
I do, because while this is more consistently, I mean, I don't remember what I said this not that long ago about something else, but this one was more consistently mediocre, whereas the David Lee Roth had some like really high highs. Especially given Steve Vai. I forgot the bass player's name. They killed
Billy Sheehan.
Billy Sheehan, yes, exactly. So yeah, I do think the David Lee Roth record was better.
Okay, but it looks like it's kind of a split decision on this.
I would listen to this Kicks record 100 times in a row before I listen to that David Lee Roth record.
I would listen to some songs.
Huh?
Dave, what's our score?
6.2. So overall, it did score higher than the David Lee Roth record.
That's fine. I'm not even saying that it doesn't deserve that. Like I probably on a hair metal list, this is probably correct. But I just for my own enjoyment.
Yeah.
So what is 6.2? Almost like
that. That's a C tier score for us. So not necessarily the highest score. Thank goodness, it's slightly worse than the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Jeez Louise. But on the main,
what was the score on that?
Criminally low, 638.
Close.
Yeah.
I'm gonna revise my score. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Stop it. Unfortunately, this is right along the lines of Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer. I feel like that's criminal.
Criminal for Slayer listeners.
Yeah, this did beat Anthrax's Among the Living. I should probably stop because we're gonna lose subs.
That album's not good.
This beat Sepultura's Beneath the Remains. This beat At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul. This beat Blind Guardian, Nightfall, and Middle Earth.
Oh no, that's a problem.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
You want
yeah,
to
dude.
stop
Hope you guys like the video here. Yeah, if you want us to stop talking, go ahead, hit that like. Hit the subscribe. Enjoy that. In the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Sure.
Peace.